Bulls Nation, welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Weekly. And before we go any further into this video, I want to apologize for not giving this video out earlier. Due to the back-to-back the Chicago Bulls experience, I could not upload Chicago Bulls Weekly at the time that it was expected. And normally I would upload 2 videos in a day, but it has just been a very hectic schedule for me at the moment. So hopefully it's a better late than never scenario and we can kick off Chicago Bulls Weekly with some very valuable information. And without further ado, let's talk about Chicago Bulls Weekly and let's talk about the Chicago Bulls in this video. Let's do it. What's up everybody, it's the Aidan Sports Show and welcome back to another video. Today we've got a Chicago Bulls Weekly episode where we talk about the previous games that the Chicago Bulls have faced in the prior week that we do have to discuss, with some very important games that we did face. We're going to be discussing all of them, and we're going to be discussing the future games that the Chicago Bulls will have to face. And of course, this episode of Chicago Bulls Weekly, we will have to discuss a game that's already happened this week that I have failed to put out in this Chicago Bulls Weekly. We will also be discussing that Memphis Grizzlies game as well. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Aidan Sports Show YouTube channel. Turn notifications on and let me know in the comments below. Are you optimistic about the Chicago Bulls upcoming week? Are there winnable games here for the Chicago Bulls? And overall, what are your thoughts about our playoff or play-in tournament chances? Now, before we go any further, let's look at the Chicago Bulls week that we just faced, the results that we had. Now, overall, I expected the Chicago Bulls to go 3-1 this week. And to my surprise, the Chicago Bulls failed to deliver in this week in terms of the wins and the losses. So, let's go through all of them in this video now. First one was against the Indiana Pacers, the 9th-seeded Indiana Pacers. The Chicago Bulls trying to fight to try and build their way out to that 9th position. Very important game against the Indiana Pacers. In the end, the Indiana Pacers ended up going further away from the Chicago Bulls, but we picked up a victory against the Indiana Pacers, 113-97, and that could end up being a very vital victory if the Chicago Bulls can get their act together over the next coming games, and we can find our way into that 9th position, because that spot is still up for grabs for the Chicago Bulls. Then we move over to the Toronto Raptors. The Toronto Raptors, who are the 11th seed, I believe 2 games or could potentially be less than that or more, who knows, by this point in time. 2 games away from the Chicago Bulls' 10th seeded position. And it was very important that we pick up a victory against them as well. And we did pick up a victory against the Toronto Raptors, beating them 122-113. And again, at this point, we were on a 3-game win streak. Everything was going well, everything was going smoothly, and it looked like we turned a new leaf. And then we versed the Atlanta Hawks. And the Atlanta Hawks, everything changed. Zach LaVine became the main scorer for the Chicago Bulls, scoring 39 points in one half. And overall, no one else decided to step up to the plate. And again, we had lack of ball movement, lack of real knowledge and understanding of what to do, and especially very poor defensive presences, especially in the pick and roll. And we blew a 13-point lead to the Atlanta Hawks as they beat us 120-108. Very upsetting loss there, but it all goes round to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And that is the final game that we had that week. And again, the Minnesota Timberwolves, this game was close and competitive all night long. Minnesota were up the entire time, and very poor foul calls by the umps or the refs in today's game ended up not allowing the Bulls to really come back the way they would have liked. And we did lose this game 121-117, which led to a 2-game losing streak at the end of the week. Now, obviously, there is another game that we will discuss, but we will discuss that later on. For those specific games, it was a 2-2 effort. So we went 2 wins and 2 losses, which again is just not good enough in my opinion if we want to be a team that wants to fight for a playoff tournament, play-in tournament. We need to be winning more games than we are losing. And unfortunately, stagnating is just not the best scenario right now, because any team underneath us can go on a win streak and we will be in trouble. So we need to be a team that can consistently win, and better yet, consistently win against decent sides and winnable sides as well. We have a lot of winnable games coming up, and again, I'm very worried that we won't win these games because the Chicago Bulls, as of late, has lost to teams that you'd expect them to at least come close in or win the game. And again, in scenarios where we are winning the game as well. That's the most frustrating part. So, before we go any further, we need to talk about the must improve of the week, the sixth man of the week, and the player of the week. And again, very difficult choices that I have to give out for that, I guess, scenario. But overall, for that week, we're going to have to discuss. We're going to have to do it very well. So, let's go to the must improve first of all. The must improve, in my opinion, if you're looking for a must improve, you have to look at the last two games. Because in the end, the Chicago Bulls against the Pacers, the Chicago Bulls against the Raptors, every single player contributed, every single player performed well, and every single player brought their A game. But the Hawks and the Timberwolves, there were some people that did not show up to the occasion, and those people could be the main faults that we did lose those two games. So I'm looking at those two games, the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Atlanta Hawks, and the one clear standout for me for must improve would have to be Larry Marketing. Now, again, this is a very tough one to give him because he had fantastic two games against the Indiana Pacers and the Raptors. And I believe that he still has that element of that aggression in him. But it's all about bringing that aggression out of him more often. It's all about him looking for shots and not stagnating or not being hesitant to shoot or not being aggressive enough. We need Larry Marketing to be the absolute pinnacle of aggression that we've ever seen from him. I think that is the best. That is the key Larry Marketing that we can see night in and night out, is when the Larry Marketing is aggressive. And there are some games where he is aggressive, and there are some games where he simply doesn't get the ball. So it's very similar to, in many ways, Patrick Williams. Patrick Williams also could be a candidate for this must improve I guess, situation. And for many people, Patrick Williams probably is the must improve player. It's very similar. Patrick Williams barely gets the ball. Larry Marketing barely gets the ball when he's coming off of the bench sometimes. So there needs to be an element of consistency in what Larry Marketing's shots are going to be. When is he going to get the ball? Are there plays being called for him? And all these things. So I don't think we see that enough from the Chicago Bulls, and we don't see enough aggression from Larry Marketing. So I think altogether that combines for him to be my must improve. The sixth man of the week, to be honest, it's very difficult. It really is very difficult because we've had some very good players coming in from the bench that did have solid production. Again, Larry Marketing had a very good two games against the Indiana Pacers and the Raptors. And Kobe White had some good games this week as well against the Pacers and the Raptors. But if I had to choose, I would probably choose Daniel Theis. Now, Daniel Theis, I believe, did not play against the Indiana Pacers. He only played 3 games this week, and I think 2 out of the 3 games he played very good basketball. So in the end, it's fine margins here. I mean, you could pick Larry Marketing for must improve. You could pick Larry Marketing for sixth man of the week. It has been that stressful and honestly, that really unpredictable, the Chicago Bulls bench. Who's stepping up at the right times? Who's failing to deliver at certain times? Again, many of these bench players have stepped up and have not delivered in consecutive games. So it is very frustrating, and it's very hard to pick the sixth man of the week in most weeks. It's very frustrating for me. But I would pick Daniel Theis. He did not play against the Pacers, I believe. And 2 out of the 3 games, besides the Atlanta game, he played very well. And I guess that's the only thing I could really say on the situation. That's how I feel. I feel Daniel Theis is the sixth man of the week for the Chicago Bulls. I think his defensive presence has been very good. And I think more often than not, he's been consistently solid for the Chicago Bulls. Again, the Atlanta Hawks game outstanding because he did not have a good game there. Most of the games for the Chicago Bulls, he's played some consistent basketball for us. And again, he's doing what we need as well. He's a very intelligent player in my eyes, and he knows how to win. And I think his addition is probably one of the better additions on this team that we have outside of most of the trades. Out of all the trades, Daniel Theis and of course Vucevic would be the 2 players, in my opinion, that are a necessity for the Chicago Bulls now. And let's just see what he could do in the future games. Hopefully he won't be out with a hand injury. I don't know if that's the situation. I don't know his situation. I don't know if he'll be back tomorrow, if he missed the game. I really don't know, and I apologize for not knowing. But again, I hope he will be ready for the Orlando Magic game. And the player of the week would be Zach LaVine. Again, he dropped 50. He had a 21 and 9 assist performance. I believe that was against Memphis, sorry, so that doesn't count. But overall, he was very solid for the Chicago Bulls. Again, it is a bit frustrating that his performances, for the most part, go on deaf ears and it's not really talked about anymore. Because again, when you drop 50 points against the Atlanta Hawks, you need to beat the Atlanta Hawks so people can actually talk about your 50-point performance. And that's the difference between Jason Tatum's 50 points performance and Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine was a great 50-point performance, but we didn't win. So no one talks about it outside of the Chicago Bulls. And that's the big difference there. So it's very unfortunate that many people won't ever get to remember this performance from Zach LaVine. But in my eyes, and I think in a lot of Bulls' eyes, we saw a 50-point performance with our own eyes from a Bulls player. And we haven't seen that in a very long time. Very few players in Bulls history has scored 50 points, let alone in recent history. So fair play to Zach LaVine for that. And that does get him the player of the week. But ultimately, again, a very disappointing week in my eyes. So maybe they won't be too proud of that. Again, we shall wait and see how the next upcoming week goes. And with that being said, let's talk about the upcoming week. The Chicago Bulls will have 4 games this week. And at the end of the day, despite many other Bulls weeklies, one of the games has already been played. So before we go into the results, the games that we do have this week is obviously against the Memphis Grizzlies. This game has already been played and we've lost this game 101-90 after a shocking fourth quarter performance where the Bulls simply could not score and could not defend the basketball in one of the worst fourth quarters I've seen all season from the Chicago Bulls in a rather ugly game overall. Then we've got the Orlando Magic, the next game coming up. Wendell Carter will be versing the Chicago Bulls, his first game against the Chicago Bulls, and Nikola Vucevic will be versing the Orlando Magic. So again, a very big game for both teams here, and I think both teams will be looking to try and get a win and bragging rights over each other for the trades. Again, this is a very important game for the Chicago Bulls, not only for our season, but for the support of Nikola Vucevic, allowing him to beat his former side and kind of get his confidence up and boost him up a bit. And I think that's going to be a very important game for him. Then we've got the Memphis Grizzlies once again, the second game against the Memphis Grizzlies, and hopefully this game against them, we can have a little bit of pride and fight back against the Memphis Grizzlies. Again, we've been on a very tough away streak in terms of games for the Chicago Bulls. This game will be played at home, and hopefully that home advantage will see us over the line. But again, we shall wait and see how that goes as well. Memphis are a decent side, and again, if they're going to be playing the same way they played against us the first time, they're going to make it an ugly game. I don't know if the Chicago Bulls will be able to handle that. Then we got the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, we've already versed the Cleveland Cavaliers before and we've lost to them very convincingly. So I'm hoping there's an element of payback in today's game as well. Again, the Chicago Bulls are at a higher record than the Cleveland Cavaliers. But Cleveland Cavaliers, in my eyes, is still a team that with some winnable games or going on a massive win streak can still take our spot. So that is definitely a game we cannot take lightly. We need to beat the people that are trying to fight for our spot. That's the most important thing. Cleveland is still one of those teams in my eyes. I know maybe the record, maybe there's simply no chance for them. But again, anything can happen in the NBA. All it takes is a win streak and they could fight for that position. So hopefully the Bulls can beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. And those are the 4 games that the Chicago Bulls will face this week, or 3 of them, and 1 of them has already been played. Again, my apologies for that one. And hopefully that does not happen again. And it shouldn't happen again, at least for next week. And that's what we have. Very interesting week. Very, very, very important week. And a week where I believe the Chicago Bulls simply needs to take advantage of these games. Again, upcoming, we got some difficult games coming up after this stretch. We got the Cavs. 2 weeks from now, we've got Boston. Boston are on a 4-game win streak as of now. So again, they could be finding their mojo. That'll be a very tough team to verse and go and win against. Then we've got Miami down the line. We've got Miami twice. We've got the Bucks. We've got the Hawks again. We've got the Nets twice. We have very tough games coming up after this stretch. Again, those games will be compiled with some easier games, but for the majority, they will be difficult games for the Chicago Bulls. So We need to take advantage now. We need to beat the Orlando Magic. Unfortunately, we've already lost to the Grizzlies, but we need to beat the Memphis Grizzlies. We need to beat the Cleveland Cavaliers. These games are important for our season. These are the games that we need to beat before we go into the Boston games, before we go into the Miami games, before we go into those Bucks games, where it's going to be very difficult for us to win those games. We need to go and beat the teams that we're supposed to beat teams that we can beat. And that's all I really have to say on this situation. And hopefully the Bulls can come up and deliver. Because if not, we will be in for a very tough end of the season. And hopefully it still will be enough to put us in the play-in tournament. But again, every loss counts now. Every loss matters so much. So we can't see too many of them going forward. And again, I don't know if the Bulls are up for the task or not. We shall wait and see. It's a very negative time for Bulls fans. Many Bulls fans are upset. So hopefully those players will have the incentives to go and prove everybody wrong and shut everybody up that keeps doubting them. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. Have a wonderful and safe day, Bulls Nation. I'm sorry again for this video being out late. I can only do what I can do. And again, today is the day it will come out. So have a wonderful and safe day for everybody watching, or if you're going to be watching the next day, or if you skip this video and go straight to the Orlando Magic game reaction, whatever the case may be. I hope you have a safe day and just try and stay a little bit positive. Again, try to think of things outside of Chicago and the Chicago Bulls to try and keep your mind at a positive mindset, because too much negativity can be really bad for you. So try and change your mind to other things. Of course, when the Bulls play and recent performances, it is very upsetting. And I can't lie, it is upsetting and it is a very negative time for the Bulls. But that's all I can say. Just try and stay positive any way you can. Take care.